Hey, it sounds like a fun event, John. Hey, do you know, like 10 months ago, we started on this journey called Breakthru. And last year, we developed all the training material, and we took all of our leaders through so that they could lead you through Breakthru, which is the financial peace classes in January, February, and March. And as you know, when you were in the early in the classes, they asked you to turn in a financial snapshot, to take a picture of where we were so that we can look at the end where God has taken us. And so I want to let you know where we were, how we started out here, okay?
Well, Doug,
what's that?
Before you do this,
Is there another 0.5K or something?
Well, it's another surprise. I'll ask for forgiveness,
okay.
not permission.
All right, what's going on?
I heard those crazy FPU crashers
really
are roaming the building.
I love those dudes.
At least two of them. Should we invite them out and do it right?
Sure, yeah, sure.
Hey,
You want to bring them out?
Come on out. It's like we only have one, I guess. I'll go find the other one.
What's up, everybody? My name is Todd Farley, and I'm one of the FU crashers. Not all of us could be here today. The other one's coming. It's okay. Normally, we get to crash classes. Today, we get to crash the main service. So that's exciting. Oh, wait. I think he's here.
Oh, he's here.
He's here.
What is up? It's your man, Brock Dirkman. Or as you like to... Dennis. Dennis. On a day. As you like to call me, the Dirkman. All right, my man over here.
Yeah, what's up?
Heard you got some digits for us.
Oh, I do.
Lay 'em on me,
Should I
man.
read my digits? Okay. Hey, get this. When we did the financial peace unit, there's total participants was 1,187 people went through financial peace. That's a lot of people. Now, here's a lot, too. Total non-mortgage debt, $9,734,000. No, that's like...
Oh, you
that's
said it happy. It's dead, I guess.
And then, this is better. Total cash on hand, you can clap for this, $6,869,000, okay? And total credit cards, 1,476 credit cards, all right? So, in a little bit, we're going to share with you the results, what God did over these 9 weeks. It's amazing. It's awesome, you know, but you're just going to have to wait in suspense. Hold on to your chairs when it comes because you're going to fall off your chairs because God's done amazing things.
Absolutely. Hey, in all seriousness, I don't know if you know this, but there was one person behind orchestrating all of this for over a year, and that man is Doug Newton. So can you please just clap for him?
I love it. Yeah.
I love it. So he is owed a great thanks. If you see him, just high five him. Say thank you so much. It's been a great encouragement. So with that, we thought, over here, we thought that we should induct him in to the FPU Crashers family. So for the third time publicly,
what do you think? Hey.
Publicly, let me introduce you to Doug McNewt.
Hey.
You just got FPU'd.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that was awesome. And you know, one of the things that we've seen over the last weeks, one of the best ways to talk about what God's been doing in the church through Breakthru is to tell the stories of some people that have gone through it. And so right now, if you would, give a big Crossroads warm welcome to Jesse and Randy Mills as they come out. Look at that. That's awesome. So thanks for coming out, guys. Really appreciate it. These two have been through the FPU breakthrough journey with us over the last couple weeks, and we wanted for them to share their story a little bit. So Randy and Jesse, why don't you start? Tell me a little bit about what life was like before you took Financial Peace University.
Like a wood stove. We burn up everything we got.
What does that mean?
It would. As soon as we got it, we'd burn it up. At the end of the month, we had nothing. We were living on that $0 budget. So
pretty much kind of every month you were going through, you were spending all the money that you had, and at the end you kind of didn't even realize that you were doing that maybe. And that's something that I've seen a lot of people say as they've gone through the class, is they realize that as they were living kind of month to month, that's not really a healthy way to live. They stepped back and they kind of saw how they could live a different kind of life, a different kind of financial future for them. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what going through the class was like? Like, was it difficult? Was it a challenge? Were there hard moments, hard conversations?
Yeah, the hardest conversation for us, well, the hardest part of it in general was facing each other and admitting our financial infancy, that we couldn't control our money flow in and out. Well, we could control it in, but we couldn't control it out. It was just a free flow. And facing each other and admitting that was a huge deal. Probably bigger than sitting in front of a couple hundred people and doing the same thing.
Right.
But we ended up, we did our budget, we did the emergency fund, and the three major things that came out of it was we had that emergency fund really quickly. We worked really hard to get it, and we were able to absorb a couple of pretty significant bills that came in that were totally unexpected. The other thing is that when we started going through our bank statements, we realized that we were spending almost $168 a month on subscriptions and services that were auto-drafted that we weren't even taking advantage of.
Right.
And we were able to call some of those companies and get our money back. And the third thing is that we finally took control of our investments and started learning about them, because I don't know anything about investments. And we ended up hiring one of the Financial Peace University endorsed financial advisors. And through her help and then, discussing, we realized that if we can stay diligent and stick to this budget, that we will potentially retire 10 years or more earlier than we had originally expected to. And that's a really big deal to us. I hate working.
Yeah, I think a lot of people started to get a different picture of what their future could look like through this, which is worth celebrating as well. So what were some of the unexpected benefits of taking the class? So, obviously financially it was a big deal for you guys, but I've heard many people say there are all these other benefits that they didn't expect having gone through the class.
Well, I'm the free spirit of the two of us. This is our nerd over here.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've always just sort of stayed away from budgeting and finances, and it's just not something that I enjoyed doing. And a lot of that was because I didn't understand it. But because of this class, we were able to work through it together. We gained a lot of knowledge, and we've been able to see the benefits of our hard work. And so that is making it more fun for us. And then we're also using the Every Dollar app through Dave Ramsey, and that has been a huge part of our success because we can actually see how much we have in each little category. And so one thing that was kind of fun for me was to be able to see how close I could get to that budget line.
Right.
And so I got our grocery budget into the last 31 cents. So that was like a huge success for me instead of just going and haphazardly throwing
Dave
things in.
Ramsey would be so proud. You're like a black belt in FPU. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And you can measure our success because the more successful we get, the more my hair falls out. The more I start looking like Dave.
Looking
Ramsey.
good, Jesse. Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah.
Real quick though, something else I wanted to add was
Sure.
it's been really good for our marriage, so it's been really good communication-wise. We can actually talk about money and other areas of our life as well. But we've instituted date nights, which is something that we hadn't done previously because we felt like we didn't have the money for it. And so we felt like it was time to sort of take our marriage back. And so we put that in the budget, and in February, we went on our first date without kids since September.
We'll clap for that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've heard a lot of people say that too, that Financial Peace University has actually been almost like a marriage class for them. They've gone through, and it's really been a benefit to their marriage as well. So, hey, final word. What would you have to say to the church having gone through FP yourself?
I think the biggest thing is really just not being afraid to have that conversation, the really hard conversations with your spouse or your accountability partner, whoever it is, and just realize that God is going to meet you exactly where you are because he does it in every aspect of our lives. And so it makes sense that he's going to meet us where we are financially as well. So, and we're really thankful that Crossroads listened to God's calling to offer this program to the community because it's really impacted our lives, and we know that it's impacted a lot of your lives too.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Randy and Jesse. Can you give them a round of applause? Appreciate it. So if you didn't have a chance to go through FPU, I know not everyone did. Just a heads up, we are, wow, thank you. He made a comeback. We are going to have another opportunity to take the class this summer, and so that's just a reminder if you want to jump in then. So that was Jesse and Randy's story. But here's what I know. As I look around the room right now, that all of us have had our own story, our own experience over the last 9 weeks or so. And maybe your experience was a lot like theirs, or maybe your experience was completely different as you've gone through it. But I want to speak to all of us that have been on this kind of breakthrough journey over the last weeks and months and give us a very brief word about as we start to walk out these principles in our lives from this point forward. And so the message for today is really simple, and this is it. That small starts plus God's faithfulness over time equals God-sized goals. That small starts plus our faithfulness over time equals God-sized goals. So I know, a lot of us have made a lot of progress in the last 9 weeks, and that's what we're celebrating. But I also have to say that 8 or 9 weeks is just the start. It's just the start to this new journey, this financial journey that all of us are on together. And when we think about this, I realize, my kids helped me realize this, that life is actually a series of small starts. And so we see this really easily in the life of our kids, but we don't realize that it happens throughout our lives. So like for kids, it's easy to see. You see your child take their first step. That's a small start. You see your child go to school for the first time. That's a small start. You see them, as it continues, you see them get their driver's license or their first job. Like right now, I have the privilege of teaching my son, Declan, to read. And so when I began this process a couple months ago, it was a small start, right? I mean, painfully slow, learning letter sounds, trying to sound out words. Eventually, he could read his first word. That was really exciting. And then he read his first sentence, and that was really exciting. And then it continues on, and before I know it, he's going to be writing his first dissertation in college, right? And so, but here's the thing: it started slow. It was a small start. Here's the letter A. And the letter A makes the sound, right? Small starts. My daughter Julia is starting her soon-to-be illustrious acting career right now. She's 9. She landed a big part in the local play Frog and Toad at Carroll Arts Center. She's starring as Mouse number 5. Mouse number 5. Yeah. She has one line she's really excited about. It's "Listen, lizard." That's the one line she has. She's practiced that over and over at her house. But small starts, right? Small starts. I mean, even our church, Crossroads, didn't start out as a well-funded, super organized church plant. No, we were just like a group of people dreaming about what church could be in a garage. I mean, we started out in a garage. We were like the garage band of church starts, really. I mean, small starts. Life, I think, is a series of small starts, isn't it? And we've come so far in the last 8 weeks, but really at the end of the day, it's the beginning of something. It's a small start, and that's okay. There's a story, someone shared that they actually went through FPU and they did their best, but the best they could do is they saved $75, which sounds like not that much. And there's a part of me that thinks, oh my goodness, the kit was $85. They haven't even made their money back at this point. But why do I tell you this? Why do I bring up that person? Because first off, I love the honesty of saying, hey, $75, that's the best I could do to start. But I also think it's a beautiful picture of the beginning of something. It's a start, right? $75 is a start. For some people, it was thousands of dollars. For some people, it was really, really a small start. But here's what I'm getting at. Whether you made a ton of progress over the last 8 or 9 weeks, or maybe for you just started to get a glimmer of hope of the future of what that could look like for you, I'm here to tell us today, no matter where you are in that, God can do a lot with just a little glimmer of hope. God can do a lot with a little glimmer. And so, small starts. I want to talk to you a little bit about Acts chapter 2. This is a picture of the early church. And that's a picture of a small start, really. The early church is a small start. It's hard for us to imagine what the church was like as it was just getting started. The disciples had lived the last 3 years following after Jesus, spending every day with him, following after him, having meals with him. And then all of a sudden, Jesus went to the cross, died, came back from the dead, and then was around for 40 days and hung out with him. But then Jesus went back up to be with the Father, and here are the disciples, and they're like, what do we do now? Like, it's just us. Jesus is gone. And so what we have is this small ragtag group of fledgling believers trying to figure out what to do next, trying to figure out what they didn't even know what the church was or could be. They didn't have any idea of the future. Talk about small starts. This is it. It's a small group of people with just a little glimmer of hope. And we see this picture in Acts chapter 2, starting in verse 42. And it says this: "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And everyone was filled with awe as the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles." Like, I think about this, it's hard for us, to imagine with the church as it is today, but, I know we don't have a lot here. This used to be a Tractor Supply warehouse building, right? And we got some potholes out in the parking lot, but that's okay. I mean, they had nothing in the early church. They had nothing. They were just meeting in a home. They were being persecuted and they were being threatened. And it was just a small start, a group of people breaking bread in their homes, but they were together. They were together. And because they were together, God moved. And I know that God's moved in our church over the last weeks through Breakthru. And I think part of the reason that that's happened is that we've been in this thing together. We've been walking it out together. We have a shared vision. We have a shared goal about where God is taking us. And I read this picture of the church in Acts chapter 2. It doesn't matter how many times I read it. Every time I read it, something jumps up inside of me because I love this picture of what the church could be, what the church should look like. And it continues in verse 44. It says, "All the believers were together and had everything in common. They had sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes, and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts." Here's this group of people, this picture of a group of people who are living a totally different kind of life, different than the culture around them. And what I see as I look at the early church is faithfulness over time. It's a picture for me of faithfulness over time. So the big idea today is small starts, but it's small starts plus faithfulness over time. And isn't this a picture of the church that we all want? I mean, it's a kind of generosity and open-handed living that these people, as they truly experience the love and the grace and the gospel of Jesus Christ, something shifted in their hearts, and their priorities shifted, and their perspectives shifted, and the community that they were in shifted in their lives. This right here is a picture of the birth of the church, the start of the church right here in front of us. These people counted nothing as their own. They were willing to give everything away. They were giving everything away, and yet, this is a picture of the rich life. This is what it looks like to be rich, but they're giving everything away. It's this weird irony, right? They lived their lives with this openness, this care for others, and because of that, this shift happened that allowed a movement that we call the church to start that's continued now for thousands and thousands of years. And so the early church, I think, is a picture of faithfulness over time. But I think Crossroads, I think that we've been faithful over time, and I want to celebrate that in some unique ways this past year. Today, you're going to get a picture of our annual report. You're going to get a handout as you're walking out. And there's all kinds of great numbers in our annual report that we get to celebrate, and I'm just humbled that we get to walk this thing out together. But I want to highlight a couple of the numbers that are in the annual report today. A couple stand out to me. 124 faithful production volunteers. Can we thank the production team back there? Especially on daylight savings time, they came especially early. We want to say thank you. 306 guest services volunteers, greeters, ushers, parking team, security. That's amazing. 306. We've got 15 cold weather volunteers. We have 46 student ministry volunteers. That's worth celebrating. I mean, you can read the report. I could keep going on, but it's amazing to see what God has done. Faithfulness over time. If this is Celebration Sunday, we should celebrate that together today as we get that document. But so if you're a part of that, I just want to say thank you. I know many of you are represented in that document in some way, and I just want to say thank you. But I also want to throw a challenge out there right now, is that next year we're going to put out another annual report, and we're going to pass it out at about this time next year. And I want to celebrate what God's doing today, but I also want to say that the only way we're going to be able to continue to do what we're doing is that if every one of us is a part of it. And so there's 124 production volunteers. But you know what? Maybe you could be 125. Maybe you could step up and you could join the team and you could be a part of what happens week in and week out here as part of the production team. Someone's excited about that. I'll get you an application. We got hundreds of greeters and ushers. But what gets me excited is to think about how God's going to continue to grow that team as we expand our influence here in Westminster. Faithfulness over time. That's a financial principle. We learned that as we went through FPU, and people that have gone through FPU are nodding their heads. But really, I want to say that faithfulness over time is a kingdom principle. It's a Jesus principle. And that leads me to the last verse that I want to look at, and I think it's a great place for us to land as we get ready to celebrate our way out of here. Praising God, verse 47 says, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. Added to their number daily. These people were faithful, and God blessed it. Now, I can imagine the early church had no idea what the church could look like in the future. They had no idea. I mean, they had no concept of what God might do as they were just starting to meet together and break bread in their homes. Like, if you could take one of the disciples and put them in a time machine and take them today and to see the impact that the church has made in the way that it's been able to love people all over the world, there's currently 2.2 billion Christians globally. And that's a movement that just started with just a handful of people, thousands and thousands of years ago. That's why small starts plus faithfulness over time equals God-sized goals. This is true in the church. It's true in so many areas of our lives. It's true in our finances. I mean, the story of the church is a story of multiplication over time, right? And the story of our church is a story of multiplication over time. But it's amazing to think that this little group of people has grown to literally billions of people that follow after Jesus today. Small starts plus faithfulness over time equals God-sized goals. And so what's your dream? Where do you want your life to go? What hope for the future do you have? What hope do you have for our church as well? What financial goals have you thought about and dreamed about as you've thought about what God might do in your life as you've walked through FPU over the last weeks? Part of why I have loved the last weeks together is that we've been able to just dreamed and think about the future, about what God might have for us, what he might have for us individually, but what he might have for us as a church as well. Now, I have to say it's possible that we've had our fair share of Dave Ramsey over the last couple weeks. That's possible. But, even with that, I'm going to say I have one more Dave Ramsey quote for us, and this is maybe my favorite Dave Ramsey quote. It has nothing to do with gazelle intensity. Dave Ramsey says this: how you handle your money is an autobiography of your life. How you handle your money is an autobiography of your life. And so how do you want your autobiography to read? Me, I want the rich life. I want this picture of the life that we see in Acts chapter 2. That's the life that I want. And my hope for us individually and my hope for us as a church is that we would continue to be faithful, continue to live out this different picture about what life could look like. And as we do that over time, just watch how God blesses it. Ephesians 3:20 says this: now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than anything that we could ask or imagine according to his power that is at work in us. And I want to celebrate right now and kind of finish up here by showing you and revealing the final number, the total improvement, financial improvement that we've seen in our church over the last 8 or 9 weeks in Breakthru. And this is a moment I need you guys to get excited because God's done amazing things over the last weeks. And so Evan's going to come out. He's going to lead us in an amazing drum roll right here. And then whenever you see this number, let's get excited. You guys ready for this? Total financial improvement through Breakthru. Evan, lead us out, man. Total combined financial improvement. A cool $2.1 million. That's crazy. So let me break down what that actually looks like. That's a big number, but this is what that actually means in the life of our church for the people that have gone through this with us. Can you give me the next slide? Total additional savings, $974,000. Total non-mortgage debt paid off, $1,146,000. Total credit cards cut up and closed, 553. And that, again, total combined financial improvement of $2.1 million. Let's celebrate what God's done through Breakthru. So thanks again for being a part of the journey with us. Reed has kind of a final word for us as we get ready to go here in just a couple minutes.
Hey everyone, I want to start by just saying, yay God, for all that God has done during this breakthrough journey. And as we celebrated today, all of the stories and all of the victories, yay God. I just love that we got to be a part of this together. And let me also say thank you. Thank you to everyone who was involved in making the breakthrough journey happen. Thank you to our staff who led just valiantly for over a year in preparation and execution. Thank you to our leaders. Gosh, all of our leaders who went through first and then turned around and gave sacrificially so that they could lead others. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for all of you who put in the hard work. I know it was hard work. And I appreciate that you went and did it. And you did the homework and you chugged along and you're going to finish strong. So thank you for the hard work that was. And we're not finished, right? And this has been the campus pastor's message today, is that we've still got a ways to go. But we have a vision for what that looks like. And for some of us, that's super financial in focus. But for others of us, it's something else that God's raised up or highlighted during this journey. And we're going to continue towards that vision as well. So I'm just glad that you're on the journey as we continue the process. Now, next week, come on back because we're going to start a brand new series of messages that's going to lead us all the way up to Easter, and it's going to focus on one thing every single week: grace, the grace of God. We're going to do a deep dive into understanding the power of God's grace. So if you know anyone who could use a little grace, next week's a wonderful time to invite them to come here as we talk about the grace of God being personal. See you next week.
Would you